Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. An overview of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7 to 12, in preparation for the exam. And tonight, as we go, if you have any questions or comments, please ask. So we'll go from chapter 7 to 12. Which is the central portion of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita has 3 sections, as we mentioned last week. The first 6 chapters deal with Karma Yoga. The last 6 chapters deal with Jnana Yoga. And these middle 6 chapters deal with Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. So as we go through these chapters, if there's any questions or comments that you'd like to make, then please ask. So we see in chapter 7 is called Knowledge of the Absolute. And in the very beginning, Krishna requests Arjuna to hear from him, touch Shrinu, which means just hear. This is how we obtain spiritual knowledge. This is how we obtain spiritual enlightenment. We need to hear. Not just hear, but we must hear submissively. That has already been explained by Krishna earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, that we must hear with submission. And when we hear, then we will understand spiritual knowledge. So that is the beginning of spiritual life. Krishna, material and spiritual energies. Srila Prabhupada points out in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the continuation of the study of the Bhagavad Gita. It is an elaboration on the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the introduction, Prabhupada mentions that the Bhagavatam does not deal with God. It deals with the absolute truth, because we're talking about not just God, but God and his energies. God is the fountainhead of all energies. But to understand Krishna, to understand God completely, you need to understand all of his energies, everything that comes with him. So this is the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to hear about in chapter 7, we'll hear about Krishna's spiritual and material potencies, so that we get a proper understanding of the absolute truth. And it is declared by Krishna to Arjuna that the transcendentalist who succeeds in truly knowing him is most rare. It is Samahatma Sudulabha, Krishna says. It's rare that someone understands this spiritual knowledge. Samahatma Sudulabha means rare, that someone will understand this spiritual knowledge. There's so many people on the earth now. There's 8 billion people. But how many people actually understand spiritual knowledge in a deep way? Different people understand it to various degrees, but how many people actually understand the Bhagavad Gita as it is? Right? It's rare to find someone who's that wise or who understands that much. Then Krishna describes the Mahabhutas, the 8 great elements which make up this universe: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. So these are the main which make up this this material universe that we find ourselves in. And then Krishna explains that beyond all this is his spiritual energy. Beyond this material cosmos, there is another world, right? This world is a reflection of that original world. But this is much more, this spiritual world, the original world, is much more powerful. The world is just a reflection of that world. So everything we see in this material universe is a combination of the spiritual and material energy. Prabhupada, there's the famous book which came out based on Prabhupada's conversation with Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada explains that life comes from life. Right? That is the correct understanding. Everything in this material world, the material world is dead by nature. Like all the energy around us, it's dead. Right? There's no life there. Only when the soul enters, then life appears. So this material world is made up of the spiritual energy and the material energy. Without the spiritual energy, this material world does not. It has no existence. It does not appear to be alive. It does not work. So this world is a combination of spirit and matter. No, because matter by itself does not have any life or any potency. But then when spirit is there, then everything begins to manifest. So then it is described that as the origin and dissolution of both energies, no truth is superior to Krishna. So Krishna explains that he is the origin of everything. He explains this through this section of the Bhagavad Gita. And ultimately, he causes everything to dissolve as well. He is the cause of the dissolution of this world. And then Krishna famously says that everything in this world rests on him, just as pearls rest upon a thread. We understand when you see a pearl necklace, we understand the pearls are strung together. There's a thread we cannot see, but that's what keeps all the pearls sitting in their formation. So below the pearls is the string, which ties everything together. And similarly, Krishna says, Krishna is speaking about himself. It is only by God's potency, by Krishna's potency, that everything exists. Everything is like all these planets that we're on, they're all floating by Krishna's energy. Otherwise, they would spiral out of control. But everything stays proper accordingly. So then, Krishna gives examples of how we can see him in this material world, because the whole philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, the whole philosophy of the Vedas, ultimately, everything is based upon two injunctions. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So we are meant to always remember Krishna, right? Under all circumstances, we must remember him, right? And never forget him. So then he gives us ways in which we can see him in this world to remember him. So he gives many examples. So he says, I am the taste in water. Right? Prabhupada even said one time, a drunkard, when he's drinking his wine, if he thinks this taste is coming from Krishna, then he makes progress. Right? Not that we should drink wine, but this that we should remember Krishna under all circumstances. He says, I am the fragrance of the earth. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. The power of the powerful, the strength of the strong. So he gives different examples of how we can see him within this world. Right? When we see something, it should remind us of Krishna. Right? We see something very extraordinary, just like I saw as I was riding over. I saw the sunset, beautiful sunset, and the reflection on the trees behind us from the setting sun. And we always think it is such a beautiful piece of art. Who is the artist? Right? And that way we always remember Krishna, because wherever we look. In the Quran, it says, if you do not believe in God, Allah, then just open your eyes. You just look around. Where did all this beauty come from? There must be an artist behind it all. Right? So that is progressed understanding. Then Krishna speaks about the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, and these three delude everyone. And Krishna explains that he's independent from the modes of nature. He's independent from the bondage of this world. Right? We are all bound in this world. All of us are bound by this illusion, by this Maya. But Krishna explains, I am independent. Even when I come to this world and you see me here, I am independent from it. And then Krishna explains that deluded by the three modes, no one knows him. But those who surrender to Krishna also cross beyond these modes. So he explains in this world that everyone, Daivi Hesha Gunamaya Mamamaya Durachaya, that this divine energy of his is very difficult to overcome. Right? It's very difficult to get out of this material illusion. But when one surrenders under Krishna, it becomes possible. Right? Otherwise, it's very difficult to move beyond this material world. Then Krishna gives the example. Krishna gives the example of the four types of people who surrender unto him. Right? He explains there are four types of people. They will not surrender to me. And we see in this world, right? There's people who will just not surrender to Krishna, to God. Right? They are too much absorbed in this world, and they forget him. Right? So Krishna explains this. There are people who are like that, who forget Krishna. So he explains these different types: the Mudha, the Naradama, Maya Aparita Jnana, and the Asuras who never surrender. And then Krishna explains the four types of souls who do surrender to him. Right? He says those in distress, those desiring wealth, those who are curious, and those who desire knowledge. So these four types surrender to Krishna. People come to God for four reasons. They're either distressed, they want something material, some wealth, they are curious, or they want higher knowledge. And then Krishna says that of the four, the best is the one who wants knowledge. So that should be what we aspire for. We should aspire to approach Krishna, to approach God, because we want higher knowledge. We want to understand higher principles. And then Krishna explains that such a person is very rare. Right? It's very rare that someone will just approach him just because they want to surrender unto him. Right? They're not materially motivated. It's very rare to find someone who approaches Krishna without material motivation in this world. Then, at the end of the chapter, Krishna describes those whose intelligence is illusioned. They surrender to devatas or demigods. Right? In the Vedic tradition, in the Hindu tradition, there are many gods. So we have Shiva, Brahma, Ganesh, these different gods, and then the Shaktis like Parvati and Durga, and these different Kali, right? And people, Saraswati, people worship these different gods, but Krishna says they are foolish. Just like if you want to water the tree, you don't water the leaves of the tree. Right? You water the root. So in the same way, Krishna says you worship me directly. Right? You don't come and worship all the parts or all of the representatives of me, but you worship me directly. Right? And Krishna does that. They are intelligent. They have buddhi. Mm. And Krishna says that those who worship the demigods, they go to the planets of the demigods. But he says, one who worships me comes to me. So if you focus on Krishna, you will come to Krishna. Right? That is your, you have to choose what it is you want to focus your consciousness upon. And then Krishna says that those who are foolish and unintelligent, he covers them so that they cannot understand his actual position. Because some people are not interested his actual position. So he covers them. If someone wants to forget Krishna, Krishna he facilitates that. You know, if you want to forget him, he said, "Okay, I will facilitate that. I will allow you to forget me." And then to those who are undiluted, who are pious, who are intelligent persons, who endeavor for perfection, they serve Krishna with determined devotion. And they become conscious of him, and then they can know him, even at the time of death. And then that leads into the next chapter. Chapter 8, what is chapter 8 called? Attaining the Supreme. Attaining the Supreme. Right? Famous chapter. So in the beginning of the chapter, Arjuna asked Krishna about Brahman. He asked about the self, fruitive activities, this material manifestation, the demigods, the Lord of sacrifices, where he resides within the body, and how those engaged in devotional service know Krishna at the time of death. And Krishna briefly answers Arjuna's first 7 questions in the first 7 verses of the chapter. So first of all, the first answer is the indestructible living entity is called Brahman. We are Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, which means we are spirit. That is the foundational principle of spiritual life. If you do not understand you are spirit, you are deluded. You are in Maya, you are in illusion. Then Krishna explains the living entity's eternal nature is devotional service. We are meant to serve God. We are meant to serve Krishna. We can't just offer verbal appreciation. We have to actually do something. You know, if you just say all the time, "Oh, I love you," and like that, but sooner or later, people are going to say, "Well, if you love me, do something, show it." So Krishna wants us to show him our affection, our devotion through service. And then it is explained that action develops the material body. That is karma. Karma means we have this body because of karma. Whatever we did in our previous lives, that gives us this body. Whatever we do with this body, that will create the next life. And if one dedicates this body to the service of Krishna, one will go to Krishna. He will go to a higher situation. And Krishna explains that this material manifestation is endlessly mutable. It changes, right? It is temporary. Nothing in this world will stay consistent. Everything will change over time. Right? And then the demigods are described as being part of the Lord's universal form. He's Virat Rupa. Right? And then Krishna as the super soul is the Lord of all sacrifices. So this answers Arjuna's questions, which he began in the beginning of the chapter. And now the 8th question, Krishna says that whoever quits his body remembering him. So the final question is about remembering. At the time of death, what should we remember? Now, Krishna will answer this. What should we remember at the time of death? So he explains that whoever quits their body, remembering him, will go to him. If you remember Krishna, you will go. It's not automatic. In churchianity, if you go to churches all over the world, they will teach when you die, you will automatically go to heaven. It's not like that. It's what you are conscious of. Right? If you are conscious of Krishna, you will go to Krishna. If you are not conscious of Krishna, you will not go to Krishna. So Krishna recommends to Arjuna to meditate on him, dedicate his activities to him, and thus you will attain Krishna, right? Through meditation and dedication of one's activities. So then it is described how do we remember Krishna, right? So we can remember him as one who knows everything, the oldest, the controller, the smallest of the smallest, the maintainer, right? The one who is beyond material nature. Krishna advises how we can remember him. So the practices of how to remember Krishna. Krishna explains you need to practice celibacy. In other words, you need to become less materially absorbed in this world. Right? You have to become less absorbed in this world. Then you can go to Krishna. And you have to detach yourself from your senses, right? You have to let go of your desires to enjoy in this world if you want to go to the other world. And if you undeviatingly remember Krishna, you will go to Krishna. And then you can give up this world of birth and death, which Krishna describes as being miserable. So then, Krishna describes the nature of this world and the spiritual world. In this material world, the living entities appear during each million-year long day of Lord Brahma and are vanquished during his night. But although the Lord is present here in this world, if we meditate upon him and focus on him, we will go to that place where Krishna says, you will never return. If you go back to the spiritual world, if you go back to the kingdom of God, you will not return to this world again. Right? Krishna, you will transcend this world once and for all. So then at the end of the chapter, Krishna says, if you pass from this world at particular times, you will go to a higher abode. Right? But then Prabhupada explains that for the devotee, actually, it does not matter. We can die at any time, under any circumstance or any time. As long as we remember Krishna, we will transcend this world once and for all. So now chapter 9, right? What is chapter 9 called? The most confidential knowledge. So this is the most important chapter in the Bhagavad Gita because it has the most confidential knowledge, right? It is the essence of bhakti or devotion. So first of all, the chapter begins about hearing about Krishna. All right. What are the qualifications? What are the disqualifications for hearing about Krishna? To hear about Krishna, one has to be non-envious. If you have envy for God, you cannot go back to God. Why are we away from God now? Because we're envious of him. We want to compete with him, right? So that keeps us away. So now Krishna is saying you have to become non-envious. And if you are faithless, it forces you to repeat the cycle of birth and death. In other words, you cannot transcend this world if you do not develop faith in God, faith in Krishna. You know, when you have deep faith, then that takes you to Krishna. So Krishna's position in relationship to this world, it is described that Krishna pervades, he creates and annihilates this entire material cosmos. But he remains neutral and detached. Right? Krishna is detached from this world. Even though he is in this world, he is not of this world. Right? He comes into this world as the super soul, but he is not affected. He is not affected by this material energy. And he states within this ninth chapter, if you remember him, you will go to him. You will transcend this world altogether. So fools who think that Krishna is an ordinary person. Right? There are many people in this world who think that Krishna is ordinary. And when he comes to this world, he is an ordinary person. So therefore, they cannot understand Krishna. Krishna calls them muta. Muta means ass, ignorant. Like an ass is like an ignorant animal. So the one who is ignorant and foolish, they cannot understand Krishna. They cannot not understand God. But those who can are the Mahatmas, and they take shelter of the divine energy, the Daivi Prakriti. Mahatmanas tumam pata Daivim Prakritim ashritaha. Right? They take shelter of the spiritual energy. They are the great souls, the Mahatmas. So then, Krishna describes that he is the supreme object of worship. It is Krishna who is the sacrifice. He explains, I am the I am the syllable Om in the Vedas, the universal Father, the most dear friend, the sustainer of the goal, the death, drought, heat, the rain. So he describes ways that we can meditate on him, that we can worship him, that our minds on him as the supreme object of worship. And once again, it says, Krishna explains that if you worship, you are indirectly worshiping him. So once again, he's saying, be direct, come to me directly. So Krishna requests, he explains the glories of directly worshiping him. So here in this section, verses 26 to 34, we hear some of the most important verses in the Bhagavad Gita, the most important verses describing devotional service or bhakti yoga. So Krishna requests that one worships him, one who does worship. He gives these famous verses: Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaksha prayachchati. He says, if you just offer me a fruit, a flower, leaf, or water, with bhakti, I accept it. Ashnami means I accept it. Right? So he's giving the secret of devotion. You don't have to offer very much to capture God's heart, but you must have love or devotion. Right? So you just offer something very small, even one piece of fruit. You just offer it to, but you offer it to him with love and devotion, then you will please him. So he says that everything we do for him, whatever austerities, whatever charity we give away, that must be done as an offering unto him. And that will free us from reaction in this material world. And then he explains that even if a devotee commits a horrible act, he is still considered saint rectified. This is not a premeditated act. It means if a devotee may do something accidentally, but it's a horrible act. But still, because he rectifies himself, he is dear to the Lord. He is dear to Krishna. And then Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, declare it boldly. My devotee will never perish. Right? I carry, he gives these famous verses, I carry what the devotee lacks and I preserve what they have. Right? So all of these famous verses are given. And then the final verse, Krishna explains, Mammana bhava mad bhakto majjajim nam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee, surrender unto me, worship me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So Krishna explains that the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, we must always think of him. Right? And if you do that, then you will come to him. He says, I promise you this. So then we go into chapter 10. Chapter 10 is called The Opulence of the Absolute. Now, chapter 9 is considered the most important chapter, and within chapter 10 we find the Chatur Shloki, or the 4 seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 8 to 11. So Krishna begins the chapter, The Opulences of the Absolute. He describes his position as the origin of everything. So when you understand that Krishna is the origin of everything, then you worship him as the origin of everything. And you become perfect in your devotion, in your consciousness. So all qualities and attitudes are ultimately created by Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. Freedom from illusion, self-control, pleasure, birth, austerity, charity, non-violence, fame, and infamy. All these things come from Krishna. And the progenitors of the universe are born from his mind. This whole creation just comes from God's mind, right? Krishna just meditates and then everything manifests, right? That is his potency, right? For us to create something, it takes us time. For him to create something is instant, right? Just by his mind's desire, everything manifests within this world. Those who know the glories of Krishna engage always in his service. So then he gives the Chatur Shloki, the 4 seed verses. He says, I am the source of everything, spiritual and material. Everything comes from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So that is the first verse of the Chatur Shloki. Aham savam pravartate. Krishna is explaining, I am the source of everything. Right? I am God. Krishna is saying, I am God. Worship me. Offer your devotion to me. Then the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlivening each other and conversing about me. So Krishna says this is the way the devotees pass their time. They meditate on Krishna. They discuss Krishna, right? And they give great by discussing Krishna with each other. Then, to those who constantly are devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And finally, he says, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So if we continuously, devotedly serve Krishna with love, he will manifest. He will show us his eternal form. So then Arjuna accepts what Krishna has said, and he gives his request. Arjuna refers to the previous authorities and confirms that Krishna is the Supreme Personality. But then Arjuna asks Krishna's opulences so that he can think about Krishna. So then the remainder of the chapter is more or less Krishna describing his opulences. How can you see him in this world? Right? He describes different ways that you can see him or perceive him. Right? He says, of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Of within human society, I am the monarch, the king. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Of aquatics, I am the shark. Of seasons, I am spring. All of these different things, they come from Krishna. That's how we can understand Krishna's supreme position. then Krishna says, all of this is just a spark of my glory. This is just a fragment of my potency and energy. Then we come to chapter 11. What is chapter 11 called? The Virat Rupa, the universal form. Right? It's a famous chapter within the Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna requests Krishna to manifest his universal form. Show me your power. Show me how powerful you are. Show me your godly energy. So Arjuna acknowledges that Krishna's two-armed form is supreme, but he asks to see his divine universal form, which we call the Virat Rupa. So Sanjaya, who is narrating the Bhagavad Gita, describes how Arjuna then beholds Krishna's universal form with its expansions, right? Which is as effulgent as thousands of suns. And then Arjuna becomes bewildered and astonished. Right? He cannot believe it when he sees this form. Arjuna is practically the most powerful warrior in the universe, right? But when he sees this display of opulence, the power of God, he trembles in fear, right? He trembles. He thinks, what is this? What am I seeing? So he then offers prayers to Krishna. And he asks Krishna, he actually says, who are you? When he sees God's power, he says, who are you? Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time, the destroyer of the world. Time is destroying everything. This is the illusion of this world. The illusion of this world, everyone thinks they have time. Everyone thinks they will be, but everyone will be destroyed by time. Right? That is Krishna's power. Right? Time is all powerful. So Krishna says, I am time. And you are but my instrument. And all of these warriors on the battlefield are destroyed by my desire. So I simply want you to be my instrument and fight. So then Arjuna begs Krishna to forgive his offenses. He says, I used to sit on the bed with you. We would sit together. I didn't realize that you were this. You were the all-pervading, all-powerful personality. So please forgive me. And then he says to Krishna, please show me your two-armed form. Please show me your human form, because the human form of God is much easier to relate to. Very difficult for us to relate to the Virat Rupa, or his all-powerful display of opulence. And so he says, please just come in your two-armed form once again, so I can relate to you and serve you. So then Krishna shows his four-arm form as Narayan, and then he shows his two-arm form as Krishna. And it is described, you can only perceive this form when you have pure, undivided devotion. So then we reach chapter 12, which is called devotional service, which is the final chapter in the section. It is the final chapter in the Bhakti Yoga section. And we've described this in the last few weeks. So in the beginning of the chapter, it is being asked, how should we fix our mind on Krishna? in his impersonal form, the inconceivable, unmanifest, the light, the energy. So many people, they talk about what is beyond this world as just being light or energy. Many people say that. It is light, it is energy. So Arjuna asks, is it better to meditate like that, or is it better to meditate that God is a person? What is better? So Krishna answers that if you try to understand his impersonal nature, his nature of being just energy, if you try it, he said that is very difficult. It is troublesome, right? It's not easy to understand. It's much more natural to approach God as a much easier, much more natural. To do the other path is difficult. It's more challenging. And then it is described that Krishna personally delivers the devotees who have undeviating devotion to him. So Krishna is recommending that we focus on him in his personal form, we practice devotional service, and in this way we can attain him. So now Krishna gives different levels, which we described last week, of how to approach him. So in the beginning, he says, fix your mind on him and your intelligence upon him. And then he says, if you practice sadhana, right? If you can't just spontaneously think of him, practice thinking of him. Do sadhana bhakti so that you can gradually begin to focus on him. And then if that's too difficult for you, then Krishna says, then just work for me. If it's too hard for you to do sadhana, then work for me. Just do work. Dedicate your actions to me. And then he explains, if you can't do that, then give up the results of your work. If you can't work for Krishna, do whatever work, go out and get a job and do your work, but then give some donation, the part of your wage to Krishna, and this will help. And then, if you can't do that, meditation or knowledge, just do something. So Krishna's saying, if you can't do this, then just do something. But whatever you can do, just begin to do it for Krishna. Akama sava kamo va moksha kama udaradi. Bhagavatam says, whether you have material desires or no, or you want something particular, approach Krishna, and gradually you will become purified. So then Krishna gives a list of qualities that we must to become attractive to him, to purify our consciousness. So he says kindness, freedom from ego, equanimity in happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, freedom from contamination, being self-satisfied. So Krishna gives all of these different qualities so that we can understand how to attract him, how to become attractive towards him. And then he says, anyone who faithfully follows the path of devotional service, making Krishna the supreme goal, is very dear to him. So that is the Bhakti Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna finishes many of the chapters by describing that we should just dedicate ourselves to him. We must practice devotional service. We must cultivate remembrance of him. And in this way, we can perfect our lives, and which is the goal of our Krishna consciousness. So that is the summary of the chapters. The plan is we will have the exam next Wednesday, so you have a week to study based upon this overview. And next week we can have the exam. I'll send the exam to you, and you'll need to hand in your summary, your open book essay, a summary of chapters 7 to 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. Does anyone have any questions or comments on what we have discussed? Okay, thank you all for coming. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Haribo.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for coming.
Hare Krishna.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.